All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Jake live stream, night 2 of 2. We have a wonderful slate of readers for you all here tonight, and we're going to jump right in, starting with our first reader. Our first reader is a poet and theater artist currently based in the greater Boston area. Originally from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, they graduated from Emerson College in 2018 with a BFA in acting and theater education. The written work can be found in Constellation's Lit Mag, The Thing Itself, and in their self-published zine Break, Stories of Feeling Too Much. Their theatrical work is primarily focused on new play development, and they have worked with companies such as Sparkhaven Theater, Fresh Ink Theater, Strange News Theater. They are a member of Stage Source's Gender Explosion and seek to create a more gender diverse and trans inclusive theater. You can find them on both Twitter and Instagram at BRNCZV. To view their work, visit victoriabrancazio.com. Please welcome V. Brancazio.
Hi. So the first piece that I'm going to read is Safe House. I almost burnt our safe house down. Gathering the walls in charred haze landlords paint, my eyes were off the stove for a second before dinner caught on fire. It's too warm outside. The world is a winter bonfire. I never listened to talks of rapture, too busy staring up at the stained glass, wondering when the chandelier would inevitably collapse on the congregation, leaving me to be the only survivor. The priest made his rounds with blessings of smoke and prayer, but I never learned the symbolism behind gold bells. I hate the smell of neglected ash. I don't know how to store the remains of half-used joints, torched tortillas, broken candle wicks, time wasted wishing on moonlight when I cannot see the stars. So I went to bed. The odor still lingered in the morning. Thank you. And my second and final piece for the night is The Reason My Insides Are So Swollen. I've become aware of my bones, so I'm afraid nothing will get done today. I can feel the muscle against skin, too aware of my body's seams. Nothing will get done today, I'm afraid. I've lost sense of my gender, of my body. I'm too aware. It all seems haunted, illusionary. Gender has lost all sense. Every inch is ruined. This illusion is haunting our hearts and homes. Ruined. Every inch of me has changed while remaining the same. My home and heart are unsettled and unadjusted. I have remained the same, but I've changed. I'm aware of it in my bones. Reset. Readjusted. I feel it in my muscle and my skin. Thank you.
Thank you so much, V. Those were some fantastic poems. And now for some more poetry. Jake's next reader is the author of poetry collections Revolutions We'd Hope We'd Outgrown and Diary of the One Swelling Sea. Recent works have appeared or are forthcoming in Slate, Fourth Genre, Waxwing, and the Southeast Review. She is an editor-in-chief of Wandering Agnes Press. Please welcome Jill McCabe Johnson.
And now, so I'm reading two poems. Hi, everybody. And one is Embodying Language. The other is Under the Thumb of Patriarchy. And both were published by the fabulous Lit Mag. That's not a Lit Mag. Jake, you might have heard of it. So here's the first one, Embodying Language. And it has an epigraph from the brilliant Melissa Matthewson, which was a line she had in a poem, The Body is a Situation. If word is a guidebook, language is a condition, and ink is a seeping bruise foretold. If language favors patriarchy, that human-managed mandate lies in wait within our own source code. If hand is a weapon, memory is witness, and injury, testimony bestowed. The body is a trauma. The body is a crime scene, and language is misogyny manifold. The second is Under the Thumb of Patriarchy. We came of age under the thumb of patriarchy and learned early to cringe at everything our bodies produced, how blood, milk, and tears indict us. Some of us relegated to red tents called unclean, some held down by indoctrinated aunts and mothers whose hot knives cut the one thing that gave us pleasure. People tell us, be glad we weren't born in countries where infant daughters are abandoned, smothered, or simply tossed out with the trash. Be grateful, they say. Kneel before your gods and smile. Thank you.
Our next reader is a disabled artist, writer, and genderless disaster from Baltimore, Maryland. They're a current MFA candidate and also the editor-in-chief of Fifth Wheel Press. Past publishers of their work include Delicate Friend, Perhappened, Corporeal Lit, and Transit. Find them online at natrome.com/links. Everyone, please welcome to the stage, Nat Rome.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for having me. So I'm going to read the two poems that I had published in Jake. I also had a little flash fiction piece, but I was worried it would run a little long if I did all three, so I'm just going to read the poems. So the first piece that I'm going to read is Bathroom Stall as a Red Room or Prayer Closet, which is inspired by both my high school and the movie Carrie, and is forthcoming in a queer horror-inspired micro-chat book called Nat Rom Burns in Hell, which is coming out with Ghost City Press this summer. Very Carrie inspired, yeah. First, may you hunt me like a standoff of village witch and pitchforked mercenary, swaying in perpetually touchless waltz. Slide behind me and crack the top off my steel trap's hisses and pops, until I hum high enough notes and parade girl so he and them and everyone knows can hear. Second, may you hunt me like we're 20-somethings in a famine of all things sensual. Pretend we're kids and you're trembling when you think of grazing my waistband with coaxing fingertips. Give me more than hardened red clay from the soil I dredge. Ruin me with just the foresight of your grasp. Third, may you hunt me like you know what you're really after, the gristle of hurt I hide away that makes me so Midwest emo without the Midwest. Just for you, I'll let you close enough to pluck the barbs out of my insides. Hey, and so the second piece I'm going to read, the first thing I just want to say is happy Tears of the Kingdom weekend to all who are celebrating. And this piece is based on The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and is kind of the beginning of me starting to write a lot of poems about video games, which is something I've been doing a lot of recently. And the first one is pubbed with Sage Cigarettes, and the second one appeared with Jake. Yeah. Your bokoblin arm is badly damaged. I am meant to exist as fragments or forearm bones for 3 or 4 days, tops. It is possible I've been fending off harm with the flimsiest bits of skeleton all this time, and maybe that's why I sink to my knees in defeat so often. Pixels cracking apart into swamp soil and a blood-kissed X on my Sheikah slate map. I moonlight as a stalkoblin when I am not gliding through Gerudo Canyon in the afternoon cool. I creak and crackle until the blow of a looted claymore separates the limbs I'd tied together with my remaining tendons. I am meant to lap at the searing ruby light tendrils of a blood moon and go no further. Thanks, y'all.
All right. For his entire professional career, our next reader has been using his art to promote human rights. He was poet in residence at the Autry Museum, a featured poet in Chrysler's Spirit in the Woods poetry program, co-founder of Poets for Peace, helped to spearhead the United Nations Dialogue Among Civilizations through Poetry Project, former Poet Laureate Youth for Human Rights, the Florida Beat Poet Laureate, and the recipient of the St. Hill Art Festival's Lifetime of Creativity Award. He has 6 books of poetry: Unprotected Poetry, Anguish of the Blacksmith's Forge, One Child Sold, In Plain View, 30-04, Sirens, and Man Without Borders. Please welcome Larry Jaffe.
Anyway, thank you for inviting me to this special reading. I'm going to read a couple of poems for y'all. First one was the one that was published, Jake, which Jake said he liked a lot. And I love Jake's. What the heck? It's called Miles Showed Me His Trumpet. It's dedicated to Miles Davis. Miles Davis lived round the block from me, deep in the upper west side of Manhattan Island. And he played like one man could be in Ireland, living for his horn and paid his daily bread. His house was made of gingerbread on West 77th Street, while I lived on West 76th. I'd see him every now and again, going into that brownstone that his horn built. I got to meet Miles. I walked round the block, walked round the clock, where Miles stood outside his home just proud as a peacock. He told me how much he liked San Francisco women because their bottoms were so round and not flat from riding subways all days. He said this with a smile, nudging me, guyhood joke. You know what I mean? We went inside past the New York facade into his musical domain, headquarters for lonely horn players. Miles stood smiling at the stranger. He showed me his horn, and the purity of Miles' trumpet just leans into me. He sings it blue. My eyes tear uncontrollably. He has touched melodies that riff with magic, and I escape ego with that horn. It is an evolution of life in notes counterpoint, and my fingers feel broken in comparison. They want to make the same sounds with words. You know, that staccato lip thing that merges man with trumpet. Yeah, Miles showed me his horn in this house of stalactites hanging down from ceilings, made of sugar-coated dreams. When I was a kid, I wanted to play the trumpet. I dreamed of it. I wanted it more than sex, but I wore braces on my teeth, and they told me I would cut my lips to ribbons and bleed on my horn. I looked up with tears in my eyes, and I said, Miles always bleeds on his horn. Thank you for your finger snaps. I can't hear them, but they look lovely. All right, next piece is called One-Eyed Splendor. I see you with one eye because my other eye is busy confronting reality. With my right eye, I take in your grace and your beauty, while my other is jaundiced by the man in rags, begging for food or drink and maybe work. Then I see, whoops, where'd I go? There we go. Then I see your smile working hard to get my attention. When I watch the news about some drive-by shooting of children, my attention is split, and now I have one eye crying and the other is smiling back at you. My life feels crossed as my eyes peel away in opposite directions. One eye wants to enjoy life, and the other crying because of it. It splits me apart right down the middle, and it's not that I don't love you. I just don't know how to love life when it looks at me this way. I always keep one eye peeled for trouble, the other's aimed for pleasure. My fingers fly across my keyboard, creating beauty in people's lives so undernourished by pain. My one eye feels the blemish, and my other's trying to be optimistic. When I see you lying there in erotic slumber, I want to close my bad eye. I want to close my bad eye when I walk down the street, even if it's Beverly Hills, because behind that facade of rich and famous lies an empty rice bowl soul. And I want to close my bad eye because it cries so damn much, and on that side I'm running out of tears. Tears of submission, tears of admission, tears of seduction, tears of reduction. Too many damn tears bleeding from that damn eye. While the other stays awake doing crossword puzzles, writing love songs, and perhaps dripping a tear of joy now and then. But things are way out of balance. My tear ducts are out of balance. My emotions no longer harmonious. I see shadows playing in the darkness, and I wonder if my good eye has any tears to spare. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much, Larry. So, next to read is a writer and editor based in Boston. She holds a BA in writing from the University of Vermont. You can find her on Twitter at Caroline X Warner. Please welcome to the stage Carolyn Warner.
Thank you for having me tonight. I'm going to be reading 2 poems that were published in Jake back in March. First one is called An 80-Year Joke. I was just watching you across the room, knitting harsh lines in your beautiful face, rowing taut shoulders over your work desk, and I started to ponder how absurd this all is, how you and I have been plucked up from the universe and animated for a moment, tragically aware of how fleeting it is, and now we have to decide for ourselves what it means. And there's so little time to even consider it with all the living we need to take care of. But it's funny, today, the thought of my own impermanence keeps biting at me like a bug. So I keep thinking about asking if you'd like to walk outside with me right now. We could rediscover how wonderful it feels to amble around in peak daylight, or wander to a baseball game midway in, or tread the sticky floors of a dive bar until it doesn't feel so serious. Of course, I'm not serious. I can't just take the soft palm of your hand and lead you out the door this instant. Not with all of the living we need to take care of. And the second piece I'll be reading tonight is called After Party. I just wanted to tell you that the kind stranger who held my hair back at the end of the night got quite a mouthful about how lovely I think you are. And I wanted to say that I was already past plastered when you put your hand on my arm and asked if I'd take another shot with you, but there isn't a world in which I would have answered no. Because I still think that if I drum up a little more courage, you'll end up at my next birthday, where we'll be standing in my kitchen surrounded by all our friends. And when they start singing, I'll tune out the noise, and for a moment all that will exist will be candles and buttercream, and you with a hand on my waist, ready to kiss me in front of everyone when the music stops. I'm not ready to admit that it's just a fever dream. This morning, my entire body is aching with the after effects of trying too hard to hold your attention. But I'm still soaked in the thought of you yesterday, beaming at me momentarily. A small, beautiful thing that glows soft pink in my memory. A grin that creeps itself over my tired face. Thank you.
Hang on. There we go. Our next reader is a poet living in Los Angeles. A transplant from Katy, Texas, she now lives by the beach with her muse, a golden retriever named Chester Bloom, at her feet, and her longtime partner by her side. You can find her work in Chill Subs, Boats Against the Current, The Final Girl Bulletin, Dorothy Parker's Ashes, Jake, Roy Finot, Sage Cigarettes, Anti-Heroin Chic, Stanchion Zine, Fine Print, Unstematic, and others. She's forthcoming in Drunk Monkeys, All New Magazine, 5 Minute Lit, Writers Resist, and the Charita. Everyone please welcome M.R. Mandel.
Hello. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jake, for having me. This is my first reading, so just thank you for having me. I'm going to read one of the poems that was published in Jake beginning of the year, I think. It's called Sad Girls of Instagram, after Song for Sad Girls by Kim Adenizio. She calls from Kansas City, falling into her 4th glass of wine that she is too old at 30. Instagram gods tell her she'll never couple because she has a line under her eye. Sad girls everywhere face-shaming themselves for owning nostrils large enough to breathe, lips that don't fill the screen, obsessed with selfies, begging for love. What happens if you don't get the love? If your hearts don't blow up your feed? What if mean girls, also sad, take their day out on you? Listen to me. I love you. I've been you. Sometimes I still am you. Love myself, hate myself, love myself again, all in the span of 30 seconds. I felt ugly, not pretty enough, not too pretty, not smart enough, too smart, not old enough, too old, not tall enough, too tall, not skinny enough, too skinny, not blonde enough, too blonde, not sweet enough, too sweet, not good enough, too good. All of it, none of it. Take my advice, look at yourself. Come back. Look, really look, unfiltered. Fall in love with your thin lips, your round jaw, your acne scars. Ignore whispers to suck in your cheeks. Face tone your skin, Barbie your eyes. Run away from your phone as fast as you can. No one will follow you. Everything will be okay. That's it.
All right. Thank you so much, MR. That was fantastic. Just to do a quick plug in the middle of the reading here for everybody. Once again, this is our 2,000 Twitter follower / 1 year on live stream celebration. If you guys missed part 1 last night, it'll be available on YouTube hopefully soon, within a few days of when we have this reading finished. We'll get clips up from all the readers. And thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you so much for supporting the magazine, both by reading it on the site itself or coming out to listen to our wonderful readers tonight. Now I want to introduce our next reader. So our next reader is a fierce Californian with an MFA from UCLA. He lives in Hermosa Beach with his poet wife and hooligan dog. Please welcome Corey Mandel.
All right. Thanks for having me. That last poet, she was amazing. I have to say that. She was just amazing. I am going to change the title just because the subject is nearby. So this is now going to be called My Golden Retriever is Complicated. Once you've had a golden retriever, it's hard to get another breed. They are true gentle giants, loving, playful, loyal to the end, which is why my wife and I were in Oxnard checking out a golden litter. It was no easy task trying to decide which of the adorable fluff balls to pick. Then one of the pups marched over and changed our lives forever. He stared deeply into my eyes in a way that let me know he was meant to be with me forever, and I was meant to be with him forever. It was instant, deep, true love, the kind that washes over you and makes you feel pure. The breeder was more than happy to let us have him. Turns out that when the AKC representative measured the pups, there was a hitch with this one. His head was too big, and not just by a little, which would definitely disqualify him from show dog competitions. My wife drove back so I could hold and cuddle my new fat-headed best friend. We named him Chester Blue and couldn't wait to introduce him to Cooper, our sweetest ever 6-year-old golden retriever waiting at home. We kept telling Cooper we were getting him a little brother. His paw would shake from anticipatory excitement. The minute Coop saw Chester, it was everything he had hoped for. He hurried to his toy basket, carefully selecting the absolute right plushie to carry over to give to his new little brother. Chester Blue, all 7 pounds of him, stared down at the toy and up at Cooper and emitted the most terrifying, exorcist, head-spinning, blood-curdling shriek. Nothing fazed Cooper, a true Zen master dog, but this unholy scream from the abyss was too much even for him. The Coops raced down to the bedroom to be alone for a while to recover, and when he finally felt ready to come out, this little beelzebub from hell better be long gone. I asked my wife what just happened. She said she didn't know, but Blue might be a bit more of a project than we realized, but she reassured me he'd grow up to be a great dog. Cooper wasn't so easily convinced. He lived in the safety of the downstairs bedroom for days, occasionally poking his head out to see if demonic Wedgehead was gone. But at some point, Cooper had to face facts. Incubus puppy wasn't leaving and was currently having a grand time upstairs playing with all of Coop's plush toys. Our adult Golden had no choice but to venture upstairs to find some way to deal with the terror that awaited him. 2-month-old puppies will generally defer to an adult dog, either out of respect or simply a survival instinct to avoid getting murdered. Chester Blue is our 5th dog, and all his predecessors, no matter how headstrong, had intelligently obeyed this rule. But it seemed Chester hadn't read that memo. Our new addition to the family, Frolic, played with a vengeance, barking up a storm. No matter how many pointed, hard stares Cooper threw at him, no matter how many truly ferocious adult bark growls he were issued, Blue could care less. He was going to live his life full-throated on his terms, didn't give a shit if anyone had a problem with that. 2-month-old puppies are generally not big fans of crate training, but very few of them are so instantly accomplished at great escaping their way out like our new bundle of joy. Didn't matter if you were in the room, standing over the crate, watching him the whole time. Blue would stubbornly maneuver his little paw and mouth through the nylon to unzip the crate, then zoom out with a bark that said, "Hey there, hi, got stuff to do, bye." All puppies crave attention, and they can bark in frustration when they don't get it. You have to expect that in the beginning. Just ignore them. They'll eventually learn to self-soothe. Chester Blue left barking for the amateurs. When he wanted attention, he hurled himself up onto his entire body, soul-hugging you. And not only were you expected to pet him, but to be fully present while doing so, which meant that if you had the audacity to pick up a screen, he would paw punch it across the room with impressive force. It was almost like he owned Apple stock and wanted you to keep buying as many replacement products as possible. On one of our first walks, an elderly woman asked if she could pet him. As she bent down, she maneuvered her phone to snap a photo for her son, who absolutely loved Goldens. Chester Blue punched her phone clear out onto Pier Avenue, where it was run over by a delivery truck. Goldens love people. It's their nature. Chester loved some people, but only the very few capable of meeting his high standards. Couldn't be bothered by the rest of humanity. And of course, Goldens are food obsessed. You always find them curled up near the table while you eat, intently watching you with the most hopeful brown eyes. Chester was more of an Ichi dog, believing hope is for losers. Once during dinner, I heard urgent barking downstairs, the kind our dogs knew to do when they had to do business. My wife was out to dinner with friends, so I hurried downstairs to see Chester, staring at the door in pressing need, tail tucked in distress. I raced in the laundry room, scooped up his leash, charged back out to an empty hallway. Oh no, was I too late? Did the poor little guy dart into the bedroom to relieve himself? It was at that point that I heard the faint upstairs sound of covert, lethal chomping. I charged upstairs to see the asshole, balanced standing on his hind legs, front legs clutching the edge of the table as he enjoyed my pork chop. I yelled at him to stop. He calmly eyed me while turning to sample some curry rice. Cooper was on his usual spot on the floor, watching all of this with rapt attention. It had never occurred to him that eating Dad's dinner was a possibility. He was certainly curious to see what the consequences might be, because if they weren't too severe, he might very well have to rethink his up-to-then well-behaved lifestyle. Now, Chester was a juvenile delinquent pup, but he had never been this brazenly treacherous before. What had happened? To suddenly flip his evil switch to full-on position. When my wife came home and heard what happened, she immediately knew the answer to the mystery. It was the first time in his young life that he was finally tall enough to reach the table. I suddenly realized that Chester had been watching us eat dinner his whole life, simply biding his time until its growth plates caught up to his designs. Late at night, when he padded out of the bedroom, presumably to get some water, he was secretly darting upstairs to stand on hind legs, measuring how much longer it would be until he could reach the promised land. I wouldn't be the least surprised if I someday found his secret planning journal stashed safely under the couch or at the very bottom of a toy basket with his detailed preparation notes. Step 1, bark intently at door like you gotta go. Really sell this. Step 2, when human sentry arrives, tuck the tail. Tuck it, baby. Step 3, wait for sentry to disappear into leash room, then turn and silently ascend stairs. Make sure tip-paw entire way. Step 4, once upstairs, start 7-second mental countdown. That's all the time you're going to have before the long arm of the law shows up. Step 5, prioritize, prioritize, prioritize. Start with meats. If time, work your way to carbs. Do not get distracted by vegetables. My wife said he would not have access to the dining room or kitchen for a while. She hauled out the trusty baby gate we used with the other dogs when they were young and couldn't be trusted with the full run of the house. She set up the gate to seal off the dining room. Chester watched this, amused, before taking a slight trot and leaping up over the baby gate. So my wife and I spent a small fortune online ordering gates, barriers, and concertina wire. We constructed an elaborate Maginot line blocking any and all entry to the dining room. That night, we were woken up by a loud crash upstairs. Now, if you're wondering why we simply just didn't keep our bedroom door shut when we slept so Chester couldn't get upstairs, we did. He knew how to open the door on his own. If you're wondering why we didn't lock the door, we did. He knew how to unlock it. If you're wondering why we didn't keep him chained to the bed, my wife wouldn't let me. Not only had Chester defeated our barricade system, but he had mastered the complex physics equations of paw angle, torque, and body positioning to open the heavy cabinet door to access the garbage, which he had strewn across the floor to nose out the good stuff. I threw up my hands asking my wife, does he not know that he's an asshole dog? Or does he know but simply doesn't care? My wife looked like she was carefully considering how to answer before replying, well, you are the one who picked him out. That was true. My wife had principally been responsible for selecting our first 4 dogs, and Chester had been my choice. But before I could ask her what that had to do with any of this, she was too busy wrestling pizza crust away from Cujo. By now, even my wife had reached her limit. She ordered a tall, serious-looking steel compression Fort Knox barrier, the kind you bolt deep into your walls. Chester and Cooper watched us power drill that bad boy into place. I suggested you might want to usher Chester Blue downstairs because I felt like he was studying what we were doing so he'd know how to defeat it. My wife snapped, good, let him. This asshole ain't getting through this. As she yelled that, she gave the last bolt a mighty twist into the wall. That was the first night in a long time we were able to sleep through till morning. Same thing with the next night. Third night, a crash jolted us awake. The motherfucker had obviously been at it for a long time, using his little teeth to patiently turn each of the bolts a micrometer at a time, doing this for as long as it took to remove the steel barriers from the walls. He celebrated his remodeling success by opening the pantry to purloin the peanut butter jar, which he was in the process of biting open when we arrived. He gave us a good to see a tail wag, still working to open his treasure. I told my wife I had never wanted to kill something that I loved so dearly. She gave me a sympathetic look. You picked him out. There's a reason you did that. Before I could respond, she bent down, engaging in a life and death tug of war over the GIF. There was one more quirk with our hoodlum pup. Without fail, our dogs always sensibly went out to do business before bedtime. Chester found such routine to be the boring, square behavior of the neutered bourgeois. He much preferred the unpredictable, electrifying adventures of 3 a.m. walks. True to form, he woke me in the deep darkness that night, needing to go out. I bundled up, taking the Prince of Darkness out into the biting cold. The streets were deserted, exactly the way Chester Blue liked it. We wandered down empty sidewalks and alleys. He often glanced up, checking in with me, making sure I was present in the experience with him, happy to be sharing this late night walk with me, the way I used to love sharing late night walks with my dad. He stopped to sniff flowers and stared up curiously at the moon. Watching him, it finally hit me. I so much wanted it not to be true, but it obviously was. I had an abnormally large skull as a kid. I was the rebellious younger child, always getting into trouble, often in direct sight of my parents, relishing in the knowledge that they were powerless to stop me. I liked certain types of people and want absolutely nothing to do with the rest. I am far too sensitive and need constant reassurance of love. I absolutely hate it when someone looks at their phone when I'm talking to them. I have an unhealthy, uncontrollable compulsion with food, often sneaking upstairs late at night to eat something that I know I shouldn't consume. Everything suddenly made so much sense. I had fucking picked out the dog version of me. My dog, me, finished his flower sniffing and looked up into my eyes as we continued on together into the night, our strides perfectly matching each other's step.
Thank you so much, Corey, for that wonderful story. I used to work at a dog daycare, and we had some dogs that knew how to unlock gates to the point we'd put leash locks on them. So they'd move 6-foot tall pens that were 6 feet by 3 feet, like all over the room. So yeah, some dogs can be complicated, as you put it. But last but not least, our final reader was born into the Armenian diaspora of Glendale, California. Aside from an arguably ill-advised foray into the rock and roll bandery during his late teens, literature and movies were the vying forces of his life. He graduated from USC's School of Cinematic Arts and now works as an author and filmmaker. Find more at rjoyon.com. Please welcome to the stage our final reader, Robert Nazar Rjoyon.
Hey everybody, just want to say thanks for including me in this lineup of fantastic writers and authors. I'm privileged to be here. And I'm going to read a piece of flash fiction that was published by Jake 3 weeks ago, and it's one of my favorites. It's called A Thief in the Caucasus. Fucking Zeus. Centuries had crawled by on broken kneecaps, their slug trail smearing with the aureated ichor of his savage liver. An everlasting heart ticked off each passing second as praying vultures wheeled over mountain and manacle, high above his sculpted children and far below his foregone friend. Fucking Zeus. Prometheus was a titan, true, but his parentage did not exempt him from pain. Funny enough, healing hurt him worst of all, his celestial skin screeching in agony as it was eternally sutured, reknitting only to be torn to shreds, to forever untether the innards of punished Prometheus. The deity never thought things would be thus. Remember, it was foresight, his facility, not prophecy. There was still room for surprise, infinite twists. Nor did Prometheus anticipate regret, a metastasizing despondency for the squandering instinct of humans. He had gifted them with Godhead, and they, well, whispers sailed on the long winds of Zephyrus, murmurings of slaughter and stupidity. Prometheus craved for his creations to transcend their elders, not become them. In that tall quiet, he could hear himself mending the squelch of generation. The prisoner stared upwards and was met by a dense bulwark of cloud, glass through which Prometheus could no longer look. Heaven was dead to him, and he dead to earth. From the stratus, Prometheus silhouetted the skull-born daughter of his jealous jailer. When he fashioned the very first people, she inspired into their hollows a shrivel of her infinity, the instant of a mortal lifetime. And yet here he was, alone in his durance. But Prometheus knew better, as did Pallas Athena, goddess of good sense. Quick life and thinking fire were not the same. Also, she was family, wasn't she? Though, if Prometheus was honest, there was a time when Zeus would jovially call him bro! So violently did Prometheus start that the crag beneath his bound back rumbled. Whoa, now hold it a minute. Don't get scared, fella. I'm just on a ramble like you, and I got Are you? Wait, you of the mother, who did this to you? The last one whose voice I heard. God damn. Indeed. Prometheus hadn't seen a son so close in eons. He spoke words from Armenia, a tongue which demanded much from the throat. The illuminant in his hand flickered, flaming memories of crime into Prometheus's petrified mind. I'm sorry, but I think... Do I know you? The man unshouldered his parcel head cocked and curious, eyeballs dilated and dancing. You are intoxicated. Oh yeah, mister. I spied some mushrooms on the way up, and mushrooms? You would warp your faculties, endanger your life, misspend your inheritance? Or fool me, I suppose, an optimistic idiot. You, my sorrow, sleep in the ass's ear. You want some? Want some? Certainly not! An impudent shrug from a petulant boy, followed by 3 words carved to cut, an adolescent's art. You know best. I once did, thought Prometheus. Very well. Place the fungus into my mouth. Aha! First think, guy, then speak. Measure 7 times, chop once. Prometheus smirked in spite of himself. He watched as the outdoorsman reached into his pack and produced a pod. The pilgrim's satisfied grin faded, his breath, even and huffy, surfaced a swim. Prometheus cleared his throat. Oh, forgive me in great quantities. Oh, Amanim, this shit is hitting hard. On my father's son, I can scarcely move or draw a breath. In that regard, sir, we are the same. Yeah, mister, you're all chained up, and why do I feel like I put you here? Bring me your medicine, young one, and be not sad. Prometheus opened his jaws, oiled well by years of wailing. As the traveler neared, Prometheus felt a stirring in the nerves of his wasted body, electricity thrumming along sleeping veins, excitement, newness, fire. Prometheus hearkened back to the night on Olympus, the shouts, the lightning, the chaos. Each step of his escape was sure and straight, the Empyrean flames scorching his cheeks. The Titan could conjure the wonder-struck faces of his newborns at will, the memory of it a sanctuary. He pondered now if his own visage projected that selfsame awe, if this man was seeing what Prometheus himself saw. Really chew the thing, grind it up to allow for dying fingers touched deathless lips and shot back. The toadstool deposited. Understanding, finished Prometheus. Gasping, Armenian echoed. Understanding. Time went, and they said goodbye to it together. Prometheus and his orphan spoke as Selene traded places with Helios. It was daytime, charioting toward noon, when the vultures cawed and ushered the duo into sobriety. Oh, their feasting is ugly. The rover tried to lift the shackles binding Prometheus and failed. Do not waste your strength. You can't try? No god can undo the jinx of another. Prometheus observed his companion thinking, an engine fueled by hallowed heat. We're about the same size, aren't we? Pardon? And I reckon they'd appreciate a new bill of fare, a bit of fresh liver. No! Oof! Cease your voice already, mister. Please, I beseech you to fly. I've grown accustomed to their torments, and look, the river won't bring a log every time. Got it? His eyes were no longer dilated, had stopped their tipsy dance. Prometheus saw in them a respite, grief, and hope, sprawling. You gave me an existence. Let me give you a day. But my dear, no one can nullify the work of a god. Wrong! You said no god. They regarded each other, 2 thieves in the Caucasus. Tell me, Prometheus, do I look like a god? The incarcerated couldn't answer. His chest was too full, pure inferno. But he would have said no, and that was the happiest truth. Their bondage of him had not been in vain. The stings forgotten, his plunder a boon. Prometheus never imagined anything like this, but remember, it was foresight, his facility, not prophecy. There was still room for surprise, infinite twists. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Robert. That was a great way to end it. Thank you guys all so much for coming out. Tonight's reading was a little bit shorter than last night's, but we had such a great cast all around. Reading, you can read all of these pieces in full at jakethemag.com. They're all live now under similar, if not the same titles. The Twitter for Jake, if you want to follow us for any other new releases we have, is twitter.com/published by Jake. You can also join us on the Discord, which is linked on our website and in the notes here on the chat itself. You can submit to us at alita.io/publication/Jake. And I want to thank the team that helped host this tonight, too. I forgot to introduce them at the top. We were hosted here tonight by our fiction editor, Inbal Gilboa, and our poetry editor, Laurel Reynolds, as well as myself, Ben Shahan. I am the editor-in-chief and nonfiction editor. And Laurel, do you want to shout out your chapbook, or you want me to do it?
You can do it.
Okay, no worries. If you are in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area, Laurel's chapbook is having a release party for Swallowing the Ash Tuesday night, May 16th at 6 p.m. local time at the Dendros Office Group in St. Paul, Minnesota. The blurb from the site says, True Art Speaks has partnered with Laurel, a Be Heard alumni and current Youth Advisory Board member, to share this milestone. Laurel will be reading poems from Swallowing the Ash with additional performances from Be Heard alumni Anna Snyder and a surprise special reader. The event will be hosted by Desmadonna and held in St. Paul. So if you're in the area, please join if you can. I'm sure they would love to see you out there. And thank you guys all for being here tonight with all of us. Thank you for sharing in this wonderful year of running the Anti-Literary Magazine. And we hope to see more great work coming from all of you soon. Take care and have a great night.